Welcome to the deep dive. You know that feeling? You've just driven your new car off the lot, maybe signed the loan papers. You think, okay, hurdle cleared. I know my monthly payment.
Right. That payment feels solid, predictable. But what we often miss is that it's just the tip of a huge financial iceberg.
Exactly. That's what we're tackling today. We want you, the listener, to really get a handle on what owning a car truly costs, day in, day out.
Because it's consistently one of the most underestimated expenses for, well, pretty much any household. People focus on the purchase,
Yeah.
the loan.
But forget all the other sneaky hidden costs. So we're doing a deep dive today. We're comparing the real cost of ownership against newer flexible options like car sharing.
Yeah, we've looked at research from, major groups like AAA, financial sites, and transportation policy experts. They really break it down.
Our mission, to spell out why traditional ownership might be a bigger burden than you realize, and how these newer mobility models kind of flip the whole cost structure upside down.
It's quite a shift in thinking.
Okay, let's get into it. To really understand the true cost, we need to break it down first. What are the main buckets of expenses?
Sure. So the sources basically split it into two main types. Fixed costs, sometimes called standing costs, and variable costs or running costs.
Okay, fixed. Those are the ones you pay no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Even if the car just sits there.
Exactly. Think insurance premiums, registration, maybe taxes, inspection fees. Those bills land in your mailbox whether you drove 10 miles or 1,000.
Got it. And variable.
Those depend completely on how much you use the car. Fuel, obviously, oil changes, tire wear, tolls, parking. The more you drive, the more you pay.
Makes sense. But let's go back to those fixed costs. I think the biggest shocker, the one people really miss, is depreciation.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. Depreciation can actually be around half the total cost of running a car for the average owner.
Half. Wow.
Yeah, and it's the cost people just wildly underestimate. You don't really feel it until you go to sell the car, and suddenly it's worth thousands less.
Okay, so put some numbers on that. Let's say I buy a new car today. What kind of immediate hit are we talking about?
It's substantial. On average, a new car drops maybe 15 to 20% in value each year.
15 to 20%.
And it's worse at the start, often 10, sometimes even up to 30%, just in that first year alone. So a $30,000 car, you might have lost, what, $4,000 or $5,000, even $6,000 in value by its first birthday.
That's like a silent tax you're paying just to have it parked outside. You're paying the loan, and this invisible cost is draining its value.
Precisely. It's tough to wrap your head around when you're focused on that monthly loan payment, and that's just depreciation. There are other fixed costs, too.
Like what else?
Well, if you have a car loan, you're paying interest, right? The actual car value drop is depreciation, but the interest is an extra cost on top of that.
Okay. The cost of borrowing the money.
Exactly. Then there are government charges, road taxes, maybe vehicle excise duty, depending on where you are, often tied to engine size or CO2 emissions.
And there's one slightly more abstract one. You mentioned the cost of capital. Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, this is important for understanding the opportunity cost. Think about it. If you spent, say, $30,000 on a car, that's $30,000 you didn't put into savings or investments or anything else that might have earned you money.
Right. So the money you could have earned, but didn't because it was tied up in the car. That's part of the cost, too.
You got it. It's the income you forfeit. Even if it was just sitting in a basic savings account earning a little interest, that missed potential income is a real quantifiable cost of owning that car.
That really reframes it, doesn't it? It's not just an expense. It's like an anti-investment in some ways.
It definitely makes you think differently. Okay, so moving quickly to the running costs. Fuel is usually the next biggest chump after depreciation.
And that obviously depends on how much you drive, gas prices, how thirsty your car is.
All of that. And then there's maintenance and repairs. Maintenance tires, oil, brakes tends to creep up as the car gets older. But repairs...
Repairs are the killer. They're totally unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
A sudden transmission problem, a dent, some sensor goes kaput.
Exactly. They can just blow your budget out of the water with no warning. And don't forget the little things that add up.
Like parking fees.
Parking, tolls. Some cities even have congestion charges now, like London or Stockholm, just to drive downtown.
Right, trying to discourage driving.
And even car washes. It sounds minor, but some sources point out that in parts of Europe, washing your car at home is actually illegal because of runoff rules, so you have to pay for a car wash. It all gets nickel and dimed.
Okay, this is starting to sound like a lot. Let's get to the hard numbers. What does the research say this all adds up to annually?
Prepare yourself. The American Automobile Association, AAA, They track this stuff really closely. A decade ago, it was maybe around $8,700 a year.
Okay.
Their latest figures from 2023 show the average driver is now spending about $12,182 a year.
Over $12,000 a year just to own and operate an average car.
Yep. $12,182. That's over $1,000 a month on average when you factor everything in.
That's staggering. That's more than rent in some places, or like a huge chunk of tuition. That number needs a minute to sink in.
It really does, and it varies, of course. The data clearly shows size matters. Driving a smaller, efficient sedan might cost you closer to, say, 60 cents a mile.
Okay.
But a big SUV, that could be pushing 80 cents a mile.
Yeah.
That difference, maybe 20 cents a mile, adds up to thousands in savings each year if you go smaller and more efficient.
Okay, so here's the big question then. If it costs so much, especially those massive fixed costs like depreciation and insurance,
Yeah.
why do we end up driving so much? It feels counterintuitive.
That's the crux of it. It's what the research calls the price structure problem. It's the fundamental issue with private car ownership.
The price structure problem. Explain that.
Okay, so remember those fixed versus variable costs. The research shows that for a typical privately owned car, almost 77% of the total cost is fixed.
That's done for cents.
Yes. Only about 23% is variable the cost that actually changes based on how much you drive.
Wow, that's a huge imbalance. So most of the money is already spent, essentially, before you even turn the key.
Exactly. And that creates this perverse incentive. Once you've already sunk all that money into the fixed cost, the loan interest, the insurance, that huge depreciation hit you took, you feel like you need to drive it as much as possible to get your money's worth.
Right, because the cost per mile feels cheap at that point. You've already paid the big entry fee.
Precisely. The marginal cost of driving one extra mile seems really low. So the structure itself encourages people to drive more than they might actually need to.
That seems backwards. If only 23% of the cost is related to actual driving, and the structure pushes us to drive more, it sounds bad for our wallets, and probably the environment too.
It is, and that leads us perfectly into the alternatives. Because what we need is a model that flips that ratio.
Okay, so let's talk about car sharing and maybe rentals. How do they offer that structural flip?
Right. Car sharing services are basically short-term rentals, often parked right in neighborhoods, that you can grab by the hour. They're designed as a direct substitute for owning a car.
And the cost structure.
It's the complete opposite. With car sharing, your fixed costs are usually very low, maybe a small annual membership fee, if anything. But your variable costs, what you pay per mile or per hour, are much, much higher.
How much higher are we talking?
Significantly. Car share users might pay something like 60 cents per mile driven. That's maybe 5 times the variable cost of driving your own car.
I see. So almost all the cost is tied directly to when you're actually using the car.
Exactly. And that completely changes the incentive. Unlike owning, where you want to drive more to justify the cost, car sharing gives you a really strong financial reason to minimize your driving.
You only use it when you really need it, and maybe walk or take the bus or bike for other trips.
Precisely. The incentive is to use other, cheaper options whenever possible, and the data shows this works.
How so?
Well, studies suggest car sharing becomes cheaper than owning if you drive less than about, say, 5,000 miles or 8,000 kilometers a year. That's the tipping point for many people.
5,000 miles.
That's right.
Quite low for some, but maybe covers a lot of city dwellers or occasional drivers.
It does, and the impact on behavior is huge. Households that switch from owning a car to using car sharing typically cut their annual driving by 40 to 60%.
40 to 60% reduction. That's massive.
It really is. It highlights the situational advantages, too.
Like if you live in a city.
Yeah, if you're in a dense urban area, trying to own a car means dealing with crazy parking costs, permits, stress. Car sharing fits much better with public transport and walking, and you avoid all that hassle.
And for people who just don't drive much, maybe weekend trips only.
It's ideal. Why pay that $12,000 plus annual fixed cost for a car that just sits idle most of the week? Plus, you get flexibility.
Flexibility in what way?
Vehicle choice. With ownership, you might buy a big SUV just for that one time a year you need to haul something. With sharing or renting, you can pick a small, efficient car for city errands, then rent a van if you need to move furniture. You use the right tool for the job.
We're seeing this extend beyond hourly car sharing too, right? Like monthly subscription models.
Absolutely. Especially in Europe, we're seeing car companies themselves offer these all-inclusive monthly subscriptions. You pay one fee, and it covers the car, insurance, maintenance, roadside assistance, everything except fuel.
So it takes away those big, scary Fixed cost headaches, depreciation, insurance, surprise repairs.
Exactly. It makes the cost predictable. It might range from a few hundred to maybe over 1,000 euros or dollars a month, depending on the car, but it bundles those major fixed costs.
And businesses use similar logic, distinguishing between short-term and long-term hires.
Yeah, definitely. Businesses often need flexibility. Short-term hire, like for a few days or weeks, gives them instant access to vehicles, maybe for a specific project or a seasonal peak. The daily rate is higher, but the flexibility is key.
Okay, like for a consulting firm needing cars for a short project.
Right. Whereas long-term hire months, even years, is better for ongoing needs, like a sales team. The daily rate becomes much lower because it's based on a monthly commitment. It gives them predictable costs and takes away the hassle of managing their own fleet.
So whether it's personal or business, the core idea is shifting away from owning the asset to just paying for the utility when you need it.
That's the fundamental shift. You pay for mobility, not for metal sitting in a parking spot.
Let's talk convenience and tech for a second,
Yeah.
because often the argument for owning is just,
Yeah.
it's there, it's easy.
That's the perception. But think about the hidden work of owning. Scheduling maintenance, dealing with insurance renewals, registrations, finding a mechanic for repairs. It's actually a lot of hassle.
Okay, fair point.
Renting or sharing shifts almost all of that burden to the provider, and technology has made it incredibly easy now.
How so?
Smartphone apps for booking, instant confirmations, often contactless pickup and drop-off using your phone as the key. Some services even deliver the car to you. You might barely interact with a human.
And you generally get newer cars too, right? Rental fleets turn over pretty quickly?
Much quicker than most people buy new cars. So you're almost always driving a recent model with the latest safety features, better fuel efficiency, maybe integrated navigation, things you might wait years to upgrade to if you owned.
Okay, so the convenience argument for ownership is maybe not as strong as it used to be. Let's zoom out to the bigger picture societal benefits. What about the environment?
There's a strong connection. Think about resource use.
Yep.
Rental and car share vehicles are used much more intensively than private cars, which sit idle maybe 95% of the time.
Right.
So you need fewer total cars manufactured to provide the same amount of mobility for everyone. That means less resource extraction, less energy used in manufacturing, less pollution from factories.
Fewer cars overall. Makes sense.
Plus, it gives people easier access to try out greener tech. Renting an electric vehicle or a hybrid for a weekend is a low-risk way to experience it without committing to the high purchase price of buying one yourself. It helps accelerate that transition.
And what about the equity angle? How does this help people who might be struggling financially?
Well, think back to that $12,000 plus annual cost of ownership. That's a massive burden, especially for lower or middle-income households. Add the risk of a sudden budget-breaking repair bill. It's tough.
Yeah, a $1,000 repair can be devastating.
Exactly. Car sharing provides mobility without requiring that huge upfront investment or taking on debt. It can give people affordable access to a car for essential trips, job interviews, doctor's appointments, grocery runs that they might otherwise struggle to make. It helps address transportation disadvantage.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what's the main takeaway for you, our listener?
I think the big shift is moving from thinking about cars as assets you own to thinking about transportation as a utility you pay for when you need it.
And the best financial model really depends on how much you drive.
Absolutely. If you're driving significantly less than average, maybe under that 5,000 or 8,000 mile mark per year, those huge fixed costs of ownership are likely costing you way more than using alternatives like car sharing or occasional rentals would.
So it forces a calculation. Knowing the true average cost is around, what, 58 cents per mile?
Right, about US $8.58 per mile or 0.32 per kilometer.
Knowing that, it makes you wonder, is driving everywhere still the default? Or does owning a car become more of a luxury? Something you choose for specific needs or high mileage, rather than the automatic solution?
That's the provocative thought, isn't it? When you compare that true cost per mile to other options, does driving everywhere still make financial sense for everyone, or only in certain scenarios?
Something definitely worth thinking about next time you look at your car expenses. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the real cost of getting around.
We hope it was insightful.
We really hope this helps clarify things. Do follow the channel for more deep dives where we try to simplify these complex topics. We always appreciate hearing what resonates with you, so keep learning and exploring.